I'm Jamie from Glam Candy Boutique. I have made some wreath attachments for you that are giant Valentine's Day candies. They look like this in several different colors and designs, so I hope you enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions, and also I'd love to hear what you think. So I'm going to show you two different styles of fake Valentine's candy that are also oversized. For part one, I'm going to show you this style, and then part two will be this style. I'm using a hot knife tool and a 5-inch sphere, and I will link both of those. You can get them at Amazon. I only ever recommend products I actually use. So you're just going to go straight down. I'm just following the seam that is already on the ball. I'm just using the wire extension. They also have like a long stick extension as well. You can just switch out the heads. It's super easy to use. Now I'm using clay by TCT Crafts. It's very good clay. She's never let me down with the quality of her clay. It's nice and moist without being too wet, and it's definitely not dry. I do have some dry clay in this tutorial, unfortunately, and it's just a nightmare to work with, but it was not from her, it was from a different person. So the clay was a little bit too dark for me, so I just added some white, and I'm just going to mix those together. And then after that is all done, I'm going to roll it out. This is just an acrylic roller you can get at Hobby Lobby down the baking aisle. Highly recommended if you're going to work with clay. I'm just taking some tacky glue and putting it all over. And just pick up your clay as best as you can. If it's stuck to your table, no biggie. We're going to be smushing it all around. It's not going to matter. And just drape it over your ball, and then you're going to start smoothing it. Smooth it around the sides and on the top. Now on the bottom, I'm not going to put clay because clay is a more expensive craft material, so I'm not going to waste it. I am going to put either, you could put felt or you could put craft foam on the bottom. Just cut out a circle and glue it later. No one's going to see the back, so it doesn't matter. Now it's here I realized that in my design, in my head, I had a flat top and I forgot to cut it off. I will show you the correct way on the next candy, but I did want to show you my mistake here so that in case you make a mistake, you can fix it. But the alternative is you can also leave the dome. You could leave your candy rounded on the top. It would be totally fine. It's just not what I wanted. But it's your craft project and you can do it any way you want. So I just took my scissors and cut it off on the top. I knew that the clay would fill in any gaps that I needed. But then I realized that it wasn't going to be as smooth as I wanted unless I took off all the clay and redid the drape. So that's what I did. I just took off all that clay, re-warmed it up, reconditioned it, and then just rolled it out and laid it on the top again. And then I just kept smoothing the clay on the sides and top, just like I did in the beginning, until I was satisfied with that. And just keep in mind that this clay will puff out as it dries. So sometimes if you have a dent or a flaw, it will puff out. So it's very forgiving. So now I'm going to make a white chocolate one. Now white chocolate isn't perfectly white. So I'm taking white clay plus a little bit of yellow plus a little bit of tan, and I'm making that into a white chocolate color, and you'll see it's just slightly off-white, but the yellow also warms it up. Now I thought it needed to be lighter than that, so I just added a bunch of white clay to it. And this is the step I forgot with the pink one. So I just wanted to slice off the top of this round dome here. And again, you don't have to make your candy this way. You could make it with the rounded top, but that is what I had intended to do. So now I'm going to repeat the steps where I roll out my little sheet of clay and drape the styrofoam and then smooth it around the sides and the top. And again, just keep smoothing it down on the sides and top until you're satisfied that it's fairly smooth, and again, it will puff out a little. And you can see how the pink one came out. It like poofed out, and see how it's smoother than it was when I had first left it. So this one, unfortunately, it was made with dried clay. The clay was too dry right out of the bag. It was from not TCT Crafts. It was from another seller, and it was very dry and hard to work with. And so you can see how mottled it is. It's just not good. So you know what I'm going to do is just paint over it. The only thing with paint is you don't want to do a chalk paint on clay. Craft paint, just regular acrylic craft paint, seems to work fine. I'm using Melted Chocolate by Apple Barrel, but they have several chocolate shades that would work really well for this as well if you wanted to paint your clay. So I want it to be shiny like ganache. And so what I'm going to use is Triple Thick by Deco Art, because Mod Podge is probably not going to quite do this. So this is basically like as if you were finishing your table with polyurethane. And you see how it's kind of milky blue there? That is normal. That's what it looks like. But you want to get a nice thick coat on here. And make sure you don't leave any gaps in your coat. Make sure there's no holes in your coat, that it's evenly coated. Otherwise, it's going to have a little hole in it, and it will end up, you'll nick it, or it's going to start peeling, something like that. So just make sure you get a really good coat on there. And make sure when you leave them to dry that it's not outside, there's no dust flying around, or else that dust will settle in your coat and then it will ruin your whole project. So just be aware of that. So this is how they came out. This is the pink one. And then this is the chocolate. See how shiny and pretty they are? And there's your white chocolate. So to make your own puffy paint for the top, you take some DAP lightweight spackle, mix it with some Mod Podge and some paint. Now, I already have pink, brown, and white of this sauce, so I don't want to waste it because spackle is spendy if you're constantly fake baking. So I'm just going to put a little in there. I am going to use purple because I need some purple sauce right now. So just keep in mind, I did use milk chocolate by Apple Barrel, just like I showed you before. I will list that in the supply list. But you can really make it any color that you want. This is really such a flexible thing to make, and I love it. You can also use it as royal icing. So you can see the consistency is like stiff peaks when you're beating egg whites, like meringue or like a thick yogurt. And you can see I'm just adding a little bit of purple. Don't add a lot of paint. And I know purple's off topic. Of course, you're probably going to do brown depending on the color of your candy. But gosh, you could make an Easter candy like this too. Wouldn't that be so cute in Easter colors? But just, load up your bag. You don't need a tip. Then just cut open a hole and then you're ready to decorate. So as a reminder, the colors that I used for this drip icing is cocoa bean and apple barrel milk chocolate, which I will again put in the supply list for you. So I'm actually going to do this part in slow motion so you can see the exact way that I'm drawing on this design. And I'm adding some clear or white glitter from Michaels. It's just a fine glitter. And I like that sparkly look, but it also kind of dries out the sauce a little bit for you. And you can see I was just kind of adjusting it with a paintbrush. So I'm going to speed up these because you already saw me do it once slowly, but I just want to show you the touch-ups on this. There's no glitter on that yet, but you just use a damp, clean paintbrush and you can touch up your spackle if you have any air bubbles. As you can see, I got a couple there. So just keep wetting your paintbrush. And then I did not like how that turned out. And so I just wiped it off and redid it. And because the surface was shiny from the coating we did, it cleaned off very easily and I was able to redo that swirl. This is going to be a textured candy with a swirl pattern like you see there. So you follow all the steps from the first tutorial up until the point that you get this smooth flat top. So you don't have to worry about getting your sides or top as smooth as the last one because we are going to deliberately add texture, but get them as smooth as you can. You don't want cracks and things like that in it. So I made another white chocolate base, as you can see. I'm just conditioning my clay. That just means I'm kind of just rolling it around on my hands and warming it up. You don't have to do it a long time. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the top and the sides and swirl it around. So there's nothing perfect about this. I just tore off some clay. I made this really sloppy worm. We call this a worm in the fake baking world. I guess some people probably call it a snake, but you can just add those casually to the side. It really doesn't have to be anything perfect. And then I'm just going to start squishing them. And I'm going to start adding ridges, just like you see that they're, like on a Snickers bar, there's the details, there's the ridges on the Snickers bar. That's what we're going for. And we're not worried about how the bottom looks because you can always put felt under there, or you can put some craft foam. It's up to you. But you see I'm just working it gently around the sides just so it covers the entire candy. But it's really, really casual. This one is even easier than the last one. So with air dry foam clay, it's not going to be as textured as you see. So I'm exaggerating how textured I'm making it. You can see I'm just pushing up little ridges all along the outside and deliberately adding texture because it's not going to look anywhere like this once it dries because it's going to puff out. So I'm just doing that, and then I'm smoothing the excess over the top and then rounding the edge, and then I'm just going to swirl through the top of the clay as almost as if it were liquid on the top. Okay, so now that I have covered all three of my colors, what I'm going to do is take some Triple Thick by Deco Art and apply that. And it's like finishing a table how you would with polyurethane. And in fact, I believe it's like a poly for clay. And so I'm just going to spread that on in a really thick layer. It will look like milky blue and then it will dry clear. So just trust the process. Just get a really clean paintbrush. Don't dip directly out of the bottle. Go ahead and pour it into another container. And then I'm just dipping it out of the bowl. But you can see how it looks kind of blue. So you're just going to go all the way around the sides and then on the top, making sure you don't skip any areas. Because if you leave a little dry spot, it will basically start peeling. So just be careful. It's nothing super precise, but just be aware. And then just go ahead and put that aside to dry, making sure it's not outside or something where dust could settle on it. You want to keep it in a clean, dry place. So this is how they look when they're all dried. They're all nice and shiny like real candies. I just love them. So you could just leave them just as is. They're pretty and they look like candies already, but I am extra. I'm over the top, and so I am going to add some decoration to them. So to do that, what I've mixed in these bags is lightweight spackle, some paint, which I will list the colors for you, and some Mod Podge. Just a little bit of Mod Podge just to make it a little bit more liquidy in there, but not too much. You never want to push your fake drip sauce. So don't add too much Mod Podge and don't add too much paint. I do have a separate tutorial on YouTube where I show a recipe for this fake baked drip sauce. And so I will link that for you. But you just carefully draw a spiral all the way around until you're happy with the design. And then I will show you some tricks to fix it if you get a little flaw like I did right there. I'm actually glad that happened so I can show you how to fix it. So I'm just gonna pipe a little bit extra in where I have that little hole on the right. Then I'm going to get a damp, clean paintbrush. Make sure your paintbrush is clean. And I'm just going to spritz a little bit of water on the spackle. And then I'm just going to tap in any flaws, cover up any air bubbles, and just gently nudge the spackle where I want it to go. Once you like how it looks, you're going to go ahead and add some glitter. This is optional, of course. This is by Creatology. It's just a white glitter. You can find it at Michael's. And it is a fine glitter. So I'm just going to sprinkle that on, and it will also kind of stick to the top, but when the spackle dries, you can go sweep that off. But I kind of like the sparkly look anyway. And the glitter sort of arrests the spackle from like dripping around anywhere, so you can actually go back through, and it's actually even easier to sculpt this spackle to make it look how you want it to look once it has that glitter on there, because it has a little bit of a drying effect. So since you saw me do the first one, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the other ones. This is what they look like in a tree. You could also use them on a wreath or in a garland. You could also make a giant Valentine's box and put them in there. Wouldn't they be so cute like that? I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'd love to know what you think.